Krishna Krishna Hare Hare. Okay, I think we're live now. Thank you, Arjun. We're a little bit late. So, welcome everyone to the new, ever new Navayogana Bhagavad Gita class. Bhagavad Gita as it is by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, Founder Acharya, ISKCON BBT, Founder Acharya. All glories to His lotus feet and the service, the Lord Chaitanya and the Panchatattva and all of us. So we're continuing the introduction. I hope you all knew it was Bhagavad Gita. Either way, I've discovered I'm doing a Sapato group study, Bhagavad Gita study course, and Bhagavad Gita has become alive for me again. I saw it as, oh yes, after decades, I know it, and I need something new and fresh and exciting. But it's all new and fresh and exciting always. And now I've been reawakened to that by the mercy of Prabhupada's followers. And we're, as last time, I'm going to play Prabhupada, the recording of Prabhupada reading the Mangalacharana before he starts reading the introduction. And then, as when we finish his Mangalacharana, then we'll get into the section that we're actually reading, which in this version, the small condensed version, pocket version, it's where we're at is on page, yes, no, 6 and 7. That may be different in your version. Either way, let Prabhupada lead. If you can't hear that clearly, please send a message on chat. Please chant together.
Introduction to Hindu Upanishad by A.C. The author of Srimad Bhagavatam, Easy Journey to Other Planets, editor of Back to Godhead, etc. Bhagavad Gita.
Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhakti Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Srinamane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvisesha Sunyavadi Paschatadi Satarne Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukham Kroti Bhangam Langayate Girim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Shri Gurum Niratarinam. By the mercy of the Master, a lame man can cross over mountains, and a dumb man can compose eloquent. Hare Krishna. So the words emanating from the lotus mouth of the pure devotee, transparent, be a medium directly from the Supreme Personhead to us, that those words are our life and soul, and without them we are lost, aimless, and gliding downwards without end. So Krishnendra Prabhu finished. To give you a better indication where we are, there is a paragraph beginning after the description of the five rasas, relationships with Krishna. 2 paragraphs later, there's a paragraph starting with how Arjuna accepted this Bhagavad Gita should be noted. And then Prabhupada quotes the 10th chapter, 12th verse, Arjuna Uvacha. Now, quote, there's another, and translation, there's another paragraph after hearing Bhagavad Gita from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then there's the paragraph we're on, begins with, now one may think that because Krishna was the friend of Arjuna, Arjuna was telling him all this by way of flattery. But Arjuna, just to drive out this kind of doubt, etc. And then Prabhupada mentions how Arjuna mentions so many perfect personalities and he mentions them because they, in their perfect position of spiritual authority, they accept Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, not just Arjuna out of some sentimental friendship. I mean, Arjuna's friendship certainly wasn't sentimental, but people may actually in this age, in the conditioned state, misinterpret like that. So where we're beginning today, I'll read the sentence before. These are great personalities who distribute the Vedic knowledge as it is, accepted by all acharyas. Therefore, Arjuna tells Krishna that he accepts whatever he says, whatever Krishna says, to be completely perfect. Completely perfect. Sarvam etad vitam manye. Quote, I accept everything you say to be true. It's interesting that Prabhupada uses the terms completely perfect, and in the translation it's true. So I take that something that's true, it's completely perfect. In other words, something that the deciduous trees, brown, yellow, or whatever, they die and fall off in the autumn, the fall season, the autumn season. That's true, but that's a relative truth. Those trees don't live forever, and the planet doesn't continue forever. They're relative truths. Like, I'm going to die. That's true. At the same time, I'm not going to die. And on the mundane plane, I die because I think I'm my body. That's the mundane consciousness, the mundane plane. But on the spiritual platform, I never die. So when Krishna explains to Arjuna in the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita that we're eternal, that is perfectly true, completely perfect. And if something is spoken by spiritual authority, stated to be true, that is completely perfect. That's how I understand it. Arjuna also says, please, whoever is live with us today, now, as I mentioned last time, I want to make this as interactive, personal. So I invite you to, even if it's scary or risky or troublesome, challenging in any way, please put your points, your realizations, your questions, anything in the chat, and either I'll pick that up right away or save it to the end. I'll always leave time for discussion because that's where I find the real things come to light, because the more people join in personally, it becomes a group social progress, sharing, building. In the 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada says clearly he gives the formula for becoming detached. We all want to become detached from Maya by becoming attached to Krishna. Obviously, that's the overarching principle to be becoming detached. Prabhupada said detachment means attachment to Krishna. So if we're just trying to attach without putting as much or more energy into becoming attached to Krishna, will not succeed, will not become fully detached because we're not fully satisfied in our relationship with Krishna. We will not become fully satisfied, even though we're completely renounced, detached, unless we're fully satisfied in our relationship with Krishna. It's not possible. So we should carefully, diligently look, all right, am I stressing, giving so much or too much energy to becoming detached without at least that much energy or the same energy to become, because in principle, in theory, that if I become completely attached to Krishna, material attachments will just disappear. They'll evaporate. At the same time, in our conditioned state, we have a process from Shraddha to Prem, which includes, very importantly, Anartha Nivriti, giving up the attachments, giving up the dirty things in the heart, based on the ego of the mind, the ahankara, which is doggedly trying to stay in this world to be independent of Krishna. I will only maintain my attachment as much as I am determined or continue to be in thinking that I am somehow in Krishna. Arjuna also says that the personality of the Lord is very difficult to understand, and that he cannot be known even by the great demigods. This means that the Lord cannot even be known by personalities greater than human beings. Greater than human beings. Oh, we're not the most intelligent, greatest, most elevated people in the whole creation? Sounds like a silly question, doesn't it? And yet, we look deeply, maybe we're thinking, yes, not only our, but my intelligence, I can understand anything. And I know everything about everything. Now, obviously, I don't know the details of how to make a computer. I can't even figure out how to work this mobile hotspot. Speaking of getting an account and router going, have to ask the authorities. Yes, so we're at the same that I can understand what I need to understand, and no one can tell me anything. No one needs to tell me anything. I'll figure it all out myself. So we may think like that, although in principle we accept it's not true. Depends on how. The test is when we relate with others who may think the same way. So they want to tell us their truth, and we should just listen. And something inside me may disagree. I may think, well, I don't agree with that, and I want to answer back. And how do I relate in that situation? Do I interrupt them? Become angry that their philosophy is nonsense? And what if they're telling me about something I know very well already? How dare they? Or do we just we calmly, subtly, peacefully listen, not necessarily accepting, but listening, and then responding in a way, either tell them that we didn't feel comfortable when they spoke to me in that way, or give them our understanding in a detached, peaceful, respectful way, confident and considerate. I'm confident expressing myself clearly, and I'm also considerate of the other person. So that then we find out where I'm at in terms of being advanced, even in the mode of goodness. I may know so many things, but what is the use if I am not able to guide, regulate, restrict, guide my own senses and mind? Vachovegam manasam krodavegam jiva vegam uratvastita. First verse of Nectar of Instruction. When it can control the urge to speak, the mind, anger, so many other, three. He is qualified to make disciples all over the world, which means obviously he's purely connected and able to give Krishna without her own filters or nothing gets in the way. Pure, unalloyed. If it was a water, you could see. Prabhupada uses the example of the spectacle. You don't see the spectacles, but you see through the spectacles. You have the spectacles, and therefore you can see clearly. Spectacles are only there to help us see. The real spiritual master is like he's transparent via medium. And we see Krishna through him. Yes, we worship him as good as Krishna because he's giving us Krishna, and yet he never thinks that he is Krishna. He is perfectly able to give us Krishna through the lens of his. Oh, is that a prompt from the internet? one of my streams is something. So he's transparent. He's a person, fully individual, and he's transparent. It sounds like if something's completely clear, transparent, pure, it must not have individuality, because individuality is mundane. If someone has anger or joy or compassion or peacefulness, love, that person must be mundane, because purity has no variety. This is the Mayavad platform. And we know what Prabhupada does with the Mayavadi platform. He clarifies where it really is, way down under. And I don't mean New Zealand and Australia. So even personalities greater beings, when to speak of human beings, Arjuna was playing the part of a human being. So Arjuna makes that statement. It's very, very difficult to understand. And my understanding of very difficult to understand is impossible. Impossible. And as we were reading, now we're about to read, unless there is a submissive mood of submissiveness, it's impossible to understand Krishna. You go up to the common person on the street and you ask him who he is. He identifies with some description of the body or identification or tag on the body, and you try to talk to him about, well, actually not. That's your vehicle. That's not you. You're the driver. And what is the driver? Who is the driver? What are the qualities of the driver? How many people will, first of all, even listen to you or discuss with you? How many people will maybe discuss with you, give reasonable responses? What to speak of listen? How many people will listen to you? And how many people will say, well, I know I'm an eternal spiritual soul. I'm an eternal spiritual individual servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. How many people will say anything like that? Now, maybe more and more. Prabhupada's books are getting out everywhere and more. The Harinam is going on, the preaching is going on, and obviously this purification. Our grandchildren, Prabhupada said it would be the third generation. So we're up in Whangarei now, and by the way, I want to say that for those who, in 3 days' time, we're having the event of the year in Whangarei. I mean, there are many the events of the year in Whangarei, but this is Lord Jagannath's Rath Yatra Festival. And Krishna, Lord Chaitanya, and Lord Jagannath have created another miracle. They want this festival to happen. And maybe it's partly to do with Buddhimanta Prabhu's and so many other wonderful devotees up here praying to have it. And devotees from Auckland. We always get a good crowd of devotees from Auckland. They love it. We have such a wonderful time together every year. And then a wonderful feast in the park, usually with the mayor or council member or some VIP. Buddhimanta was trying to get the local MP My name's Emily Henderson, to come. We'll see who comes. In any case, many devotees are desiring, praying for this festival to go on. And Lord Jagannath and Lord Shyam decided we had before yesterday, Buddhimanta had 80% support and permission to carry on with the regular festival as it normally is, not restricted, as all other public programs are normally in this terrible time of challenge and opportunity. But there was one lady who had the final say, and she wasn't going to get back to him until 3:00 yesterday afternoon. So I asked him for information after that, and he said that they have no issue with us going ahead, and they said they will leave it to us as far as doing what we're supposed to do. So they've given us carte blanche, and we need to be conscious and careful to make sure that we maintain a good relationship with the council and all the affiliated traffic people, so that in the future we can build. They will continue to respect, honor, and value and support us in our expanding our preaching, which is going wonderfully here in Fungarai. So, if you didn't know, it's happening Saturday morning at 11 o'clock in the car park next to Food for Life Community Cafe. Hare Krishna Food for Life Community Cafe in Water Street in Fungarai. Next to that, between the railroad tracks and the Community Cafe. 11 o'clock Saturday morning. Come one, come all. Bring everyone and let everyone. I'm not sure how widely it's being advertised at this late date. So, Lord Jagannath, and it's forecast to be a little bit rainy. So that may also be a cooling effect. So spread that word far and wide, please, and come and join us. So that the Lord cannot be known. Now, in the prayers to Lord Brahma, by Lord Brahma for creative energy, which is the 3rd canto, 9th chapter, Brahma's prayers for creative energy, Lord Brahma prays to Krishna, feeling bewildered, and it says depressed. He realized the stupendously monumental task of creating everything in the universe. Now, it's clear there that he doesn't just follow Brahma didn't follow some blueprint there as a message from Krishna or pre-established to create the bodies of the plants, the insects, the humans, the demigods, the plant, everything. He had to design everything, create architecturally, design-wise, before engineering it. So it was the whole thing. If you get a plot of land and you want to build something, you do the design and the architecture and the layout, all the details to make sure it has a good foundation and lasts and is good quality, or you delegate, you employ someone else to do it, but it's under your direction. So exactly how Brahma did, he was the only one though, so he had to do all the designing, and he had the foreheads and big brains. Actually, I don't know how many heads that Brahma had, but he had the biggest brain, and he was the first and only created being at that time. So he was praying to Krishna because he was really worried. He was worried. He was depressed. That word is used there in the Bhagavad. He was depressed about the possibility of achieving this impossible task. So he's praying to Krishna to make it clear to him, and he for the benediction that he will not become proud of the almost unlimited, for us, unlimited power and capability and intelligence to design and engineer and carry it out in all the multifarious detailed ways that he did that. Apparently independently. So how can a human being understand Sri Krishna without becoming his devotee? So Brahma was understanding himself, and he was also understanding his relationship with Krishna. Now this next paragraph is much about that. Therefore, Bhagavad Gita should be taken up in a spirit of devotion. One should not think that he is equal to Krishna, nor should he think that Krishna is an ordinary personality or even a very great personality. Lord Shri Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead, at least theoretically. Now, Prabhupada puts an amazing condition there. Disclaimer almost. That's not a disclaimer, but it's at least Lord Shri Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead, at least theoretically, according to the statements of Bhagavad Gita or the statements of Arjuna. The person who is trying to understand the Bhagavad Gita, it's Arjuna, we should therefore at least theoretically accept Sri Krishna as the supreme personality of Godhead. And with that submissive spirit, we can understand the Bhagavad Gita. Now, I take that as an especially important statement. We should therefore at least theoretically accept Sri Krishna as the supreme personality of Godhead. And with that submissive spirit, we can understand the Bhagavad Gita. That submissive spirit. So what does that mean, theoretically? That whether we have realized Krishna and our relationship with him, or any degree of that, even in the slightest, if we accept intellectually, yes, I believe, I accept that Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead, summum bonum, source of everything, as described in the first verse of Bhagavatam. All his so many characteristics, in terms of his position. That alone, that submissive spirit, in the mood of submission, it's not just a mental exercise. We're adjusting our mentality that I am not the supreme. I'm not one with the supreme. I'm faulty. I'm sinful. I'm fallen. I'm disqualified. I need Krishna. I need help. I need saving from my madness, my attachments, my misidentification with body and mind, my anarthas, my attachments. I need that. That's the mood of submission. And it's not a groveling. It's not a a giving up individuality, or just becoming, demeaning oneself. It's honestly accepting that I am the servant of the servant of the servant of Krishna, that I am not qualified to understand what is completely perfect and true. I am not qualified to get myself out of the confusion, the suffering, the old age, disease, death, and rebirth again. I'm lost. I'm unable. So I am submitting myself based on the little faith or the little experience I have of his representatives, especially the founder Acharya at this time of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, was the founder Acharya, is the founder Acharya, and will continue to be the founder Acharya for the next 999, whatever it is, years, 1,000 years. I need that guidance. I need that association. I need that love. I need that encouragement. Well, that's a little about, or a lot about, the mood, which is indicated, my understanding of the indication from the words submissive spirit. The Prabhupada says in the Nectar of Instruction that our advancement in Krishna consciousness depends on our attitude. The attitude of the follower is everything. The attitude. So it's not about taking on the trappings. Yes, as much as possible, we want to wear dhoti sari. We want to wear tilak. We want to shave our heads and keep sikha. We want to attend morning program every day, starting at 4:30 or thereabouts, and have the transcendental sandwich: morning program, evening program, and day full of service. We know the ideals, and we try to apply them. We apply them in as much as we can, so we don't deny that. But if our mood of submission, of surrender, of commitment to understanding more deeply what surrender means, who Krishna is, who I am, what everything else is around me is, also in that 15th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, the banyan tree with its roots upwards. All right, that's enough of that. Thank you very much. We'll see you later. Banyan tree with its roots upwards and branches. Prabhupada says there is no such. We say there's no such tree, but you go to a reservoir of water, you look at a reflection of a tree, exactly what you see. And the roots of the material world begin from the spiritual world. They're a direct reflection. There is love. There is pleasure. There is friendship. There's deep, spiritually romantic relationship. In the spiritual world is perfectly, completely reflected in shadow. The is already there. Spiritual material world is just a reflection of that tree. So every here also, it's in its temporary, reflected shadow, temporary state. Krishna's perfect production, as Sri Upanishad said, Om Purnam Adaha Purnam Purnasya Purnam Adaya Purnam Udakshate Purnasya Uchate. That this world is perfect and complete because it comes from the perfect and complete. And the mood, the attitude of the jivas there determines how these will be for them in this temporary, perfect, albeit temporary, illusory, temporary world. Nothing to do with the person who's created it. Krishna creates for us, to fulfill our mundane desires, our deviant, rebellious desires to enjoy without him. He does not create, he's not responsible for our own happiness or suffering. We create it according to our attitude, and that's being stressed here. The submissiveness to Krishna, even in the form of theoretical acceptance, that changes everything. Everything. That is the turning point. I'm suffering so much. Why do I have to suffer, even though I don't want to suffer? There is obviously some force outside of me, beyond me, because I have been struggling so long to enjoy, grossly or subtly, even in the most sattvic condition, without Krishna. I've been trying to have the kingdom of God without God. So we admit it. Admit it. When we admit it, then that requires honesty. And there can't be submission if there isn't honesty. Bhaktivatsala Prabhu sent a message which I will read momentarily. Just want to finish this point. So that submissive mood, that attitude of genuine surrender, submissiveness. I don't mean some sentimental, oh yes, I believe in Jesus, therefore I'm saved. That's like a mental adjustment. Now that's okay, although it can often become extremism or fanaticism because it's not realized, it's not experienced. The mind is taking it all over the place. But the mood of submission into Krishna and his pure devotees, that is a different thing. One is not saying, I this, I that, except that I accept. But I submit. We make the endeavor. We continue studying Bhagavad Gita as Krishna, because as Krishna says, one who studies Bhagavad Gita worships me by his intelligence. So anyone who seriously studies Bhagavad Gita, he's already worshiping Krishna, whether he knows it or not. Agyata Sukriti. Just studying Bhagavad Gita seriously. And instead of speculating, we philosophically speculate. Now that's a whole nother discussion, because we generally don't speculate. But using the intelligence, philosophically speculate, for the purpose of understanding Krishna better, and therefore serving him and serving and cooperating to spread on Krishna, spread Krishna consciousness without all the stuff that gets in the way, or resolving all the stuff that gets in the way, like pride, false ego, differences, different opinions, different understanding. Prabhupada's words, we fight. So unless we use our intelligence to resolve that, there's no way there's going to be cooperation. Simply war, cold or hot, like this. that's a whole nother broad, wide, vast discussion as well. But I think the main point that Prabhupada I want to stress here is that submissiveness, that faith-based and realization-based submissiveness, that submissive attitude, that submissive spirit, as Prabhupada calls it, that is like the touchstone. It turns iron into gold. It turns us into connected beings. It's the key and the link that takes us, opens up the door. It's the key that opens up the door immediately to the path of pure devotional service. Krishna doesn't wait for us to become pure devotees. He accepts any tiny spark of sincere service or submissive attitude. He's looking for that. He's eager for that. He wants us to come back. He loves us so much. He's sad. He's almost impatient. He's sad that we're not with him. He's suffering it in that transcendentally. So there's so much more to say, but I wanted to stress that. I'll just finish the paragraph. I'll repeat that previous sentence. We should therefore at least theoretically accept Sri Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And with that submissive spirit, we can understand Bhagavad Gita. So if we want to deepen, intensify, broaden, expedite, speed up the depth, the level, the speed of our realization, our advancement, our happiness in seeing things as they are, within ourselves, within the world, within the spirit, both worlds. Unless one reads the Bhagavad Gita in a submissive spirit, it is very difficult to understand Bhagavad Gita because it is a great mystery. So I again will assert that when Prabhupada says it is very difficult to understand Bhagavad Gita without that very difficult means pretty much impossible. As Arjuna has established, even human beings cannot understand. Even beings greater than human beings cannot understand. Brahma didn't think he could understand Krishna, so he performed tapa to try to understand, and then Krishna reciprocated, and he gave him the full service, and that's what we're eager for, to be confident that we can take more and more and more for Prabhupada. That's very challenging, especially as the bodies get older. Very challenging. And yet it's where the real life is, the real juice is, to be stretching ourselves in a realistic but open, submissive way. I can do so much more for Prabhupada and Krishna than I'm doing now. 10 times, 100 times, 1,000 times. And yet I'm still hanging around, making my excuses, taking it easy, make sure I'm okay. That's okay. And yet it's not going to give us the greatest realization and pleasure and happiness and success at the end. Ante Narayana Smriti. We may have to come back in the heavenly planets before we get out. Or even worse. So, Bhaktivatsala Prabhu says, some people are handicapped for various reasons. It makes it difficult to strictly follow the standard of sadhana bhakti. Still, in chanting the holy names, there are no hard and fast rules. Hare Krishna. Nice point. Thank you. Yeah, I assume you mean physically or mentally. And they may not be able to follow the regular lifestyle or practices or whatever. And I think we can take from this purport that doesn't matter. You're indicating as there's no hard and fast rule. There are no hard and fast rules for chanting. So the only rule is that I do it sincerely, and I do it in a submissive mood, humble mood, admitting that I am disqualified. And Lord Chaitanya gave it to us. Unfortunate as I am, I have no attraction for the chanting of the holy name. So I can relate and repeat that. And my challenge is to not be discouraged by how little attraction I have for the holy names and how easily I allow myself to be distracted. My goal is now to give up all distractions, external and internal, not let the mind go elsewhere at all. And that's my ultimate goal. So we're coming up to time now. As I've repeated several times, please, if you're live now, put something into the chat, who you are, where you are, question, comment, realization, doubt, anything. And of course, you can watch this live on YouTube and on Facebook, both on the Krishna Katha Auckland, same forum, same name that was used, that is being used by the temple also. So yeah, and tomorrow is Thursday. I think that's going to be Jai Shila this week, or Kishore, I'm not sure. All right. Anything, please put into chat, comments. Let's make this as interactive as possible. And if you're not here live, then Yogesh Sharma says, Hare Krishna to all the devotees. Thank you, Yogesh. Thank you for contributing. Nice, humble mood of appreciation with pranams. Hare Rama. Where are you, Yogesh? I assume you're in Australasia somewhere. Anyone else with us like to say something, offer something, ask something? Any comments on what I've said? Does it make sense? Is it helpful? It's helpful for me if I hear even constructive feedback. And maybe it wasn't so helpful. And maybe I left something out, or I could have added something, how it could have been better. I'm interested to hear that so that I can also improve. All right, and unless we get something else soon, we're going to finish up and remind everyone that we're having these classes on Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays so far. And to announce everywhere about the upcoming Lord Jagannath Rath Yatra Festival in Whangarei, going on as usual. Mandates notwithstanding, as usual. We may regulate ourselves and divide up into groups, but like Lord Chaitanya did at Rath Yatra, 7 different kirtan groups, all separate. Lots of amazing pastimes. Even Maharaj Prataparudra got the mercy of the Lord, and he could see the Lord when he expanded himself individually into each group, like he did in the rasa dance with every gopi. And only he and a few other, even though there were all devotees around there, only he and a few others could see Lord Chaitanya. And they were astounded, of course. So please come if you can. This Saturday, 15th of January 2022, starting at 11 a.m. in the car park next to the Food for Life Hare Krishna Community Cafe here in Whangarei on Water Street. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Shri Ratayatra Ki Jai. Sadhu Sangha Ki Jai. Let us now take this opportunity to offer our respectful obeisances to all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord, who are just like desire trees and can fulfill the desires of everyone, who are full of compassion for the fallen, conditioned souls. Jai Vanchakotriyascha, Kripasindhavyacha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Bhagavad Gita as it is, Ki Jai. The author is Divine Grace. By Charana Arvinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.